RMC burst into the scene about a decade ago and shocked the coaster world with their innovative ride models and layouts. You know who RMC is, I'm not going to waste your time explaining why they're so great because everyone knows they are. But I've recently noticed a bit of a trend in the coaster world. I've noticed that the once universal praise for RMC has kind of waned. Actually, that's putting it lightly. I've noticed that a lot of people are starting to call RMCs stale, even boring. Now, this is an outrageous claim. I'm not doing the whole intro for this video, I'm just diving right into debunking because this is something I feel very strongly on. First, let's talk about what people are saying. The main argument is that RMCs are starting to look and feel the same. They say that these rides are becoming oversaturated and don't offer anything new anymore. And for me personally, this has got to be one of the stupidest claims I've heard in a long time. I feel like most people are referring to the iBox coasters when they're just saying this blanket statement for RMCs, and for any ride model as popular as the iBox model, there's gonna be some repetition. The iBox model is one of the most popular models that's come out in recent years. Really, it's one of the most popular models that's ever come out. There have been 16 iBox coasters built or currently under construction in the 12 years these things have been on the market. That is well over one a year. Those are unprecedented numbers for coasters of this scale. Those numbers rival B&M's most popular models. That's more built than dives, floorless, flyers, and wings. And these are all models that have been around for decades longer than the iBox. And what's the main thing that people complain about with all these models? They're all the same. There are rarely any of these rides that stand out among the pack as being different. Obviously, there's some that are better than others, but there aren't that any feel like a completely different ride model. Like the Blitz, Cheetah Hunt doesn't feel anything like Maverick. They feel like completely different ride models. That doesn't happen for like any B&M model. But honestly, I think the same can't really be said for RMCs. Like, yeah, I know they have relatively similar design language, but I feel like there's always one or two things that distinguishes them from each other. And it's not like a little thing like the order of elements or swapping on a dive loop for an Immelman like B&M's do. No, these are fundamental changes that change the design language of the whole ride. Like the Joker is mostly inversion based, which is kind of weird for an RMC, but it makes an otherwise relatively uninteresting hybrid kind of stick out. Steve feels like two rides in one as its large elements fade into smaller ones. Twisted Colossus has two different tracks that race each other. Twisted Timbers and Storm Chaser both have these overly aggressive airtime moments that are physically draining to ride, and Iron Rattler is a large scale ride on a freaking quarry wall. Compare that to any other ride model I mentioned before that's this popular and you'll see that RMCs really hold up. Like the fact that people are only starting to now feel fatigued 16 rides in shows how strong of the model it really is. And that's not even to mention the different elements that RMC uses. This isn't iBox specific, it's more of the whole company I'm talking about. RMC has some of the most mind-boggling elements out there. Before RMC, there was nothing like an outer bank turn or a zero-G stall. Nowadays, these seem like everyday elements, but you gotta remember, just like 15 years ago, they were completely unheard of. Since then, Intamin has copied them, B&M has copied them, and friggin' Vekoma has copied them. They really left their mark on the industry in such a short span of time that obviously people are gonna say they're stale, like they're everywhere. They've infiltrated most of the other major coasters built in the last 5 years. Like most of the big rides nowadays have RMC influence in them. Orion, Velocicoaster, Canamonium, Pantheon, Ride to Happiness, Phoenix, just to list a few. Their design language is popping up on other rides manufacturers, so even if you're not riding an RMC, you still feel it. But still to say that they're getting stale, I feel like it's discrediting everything they've done to make them unique. Like even all of their ride models are unique from one another. The iBox and Toppers are pretty similar, but the Raptors are nothing like them. The Raptors are nothing like anything else on the market. You can't ride a Raptor and tell me that that's stale. It's just not possible. Now earlier I mentioned how Cheetah Hunt feels nothing like the Blitz even though it's the same model, and yeah, that's true, it is completely different from all the other models, but here's the thing. There just aren't as many Blitzes as RMCs, and even the ones that are built, there are still clones in rides that feel similar. Maverick probably feels the same as iSpeed, which probably feels the same as Taiga, and the Blitz isn't the best example because that is, in my opinion, the most versatile coaster model out there and probably the best coaster model out there. I feel like a better example would be literally any model that's been built 15 plus times. So B&M Hypers are an obvious example of this. B&M Hypers are constantly criticized for being all the same. They have the same big airtime hills and out and back layouts over and over again. They're just really good at what they do, but you can't argue that they're more unique than RMCs. I think a big reason people say RMCs are stale is because of proximity. Pretty much all of these RMCs are being built in the States. There are only 4 international and they're all in different countries. The remaining 12 are all distributed in the 50 states. There are even 2 parks with 2 different RMCs, so it makes sense that people are saying it's similar because they're all crammed so close to each other. Like California literally has 4 RMCs in it, and I get it that like Cali's a big state, but that's still kind of ridiculous. And even if they do get stale, so what? These are some of the best rides ever built, and they've inspired some of the best rides ever built. Anything that's this good will always get replicated, and there's only going to get better. We've been on a hot streak of really good RMCs recently, with the 3 international all looking fantastic, Iron Gwazi being a lot of people's #1, and the 2 opening this year looking to join that top tier. I really have no problem with these things being built all over because they're fantastic rides and they all are different enough to make them worth riding. They're also also usually the best ride in the park. Think of how many parks have been put on the map just because of an RMC. Lightning Run is good, but Storm Chaser really gives it that deadly 1-2 punch that makes Kentucky Kingdom worth a visit. Silver Dollar City's lineup would be lost without Outlaw Run, and Lightning Rod really completes Dollywood's lineup with a full-on headliner. Over Georgia and New England are pretty much average Six Flags parks if you take out their Cyclones, and Kings Dominion would be drowning under BGW if they didn't have Twisted Timbers. These rides are a lot of the park's identity, and that's a good thing. So no matter how many we have, how many people may think that they're getting old, how many parks start to have 2 RMCs in the same park, I still want to see more built because I think they're a complete net positive to the industry. RMC has inspired and given us some of the best rides ever built, so no matter how many more are built, I still want them to keep pushing. That's just gonna wrap up this video. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Are you getting bored of these rides, or are you happy with them still getting replicated? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.